Hey everyone, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey here with IANA TV, and with me right now is the man, the myth, the legend, Larry Gross. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Great to be here. Great to see you.
Yes, and congratulations. We're going to be talking about this in a little bit, but you won an award today.
I did. I was given the Silver Kingpin Award by IANA, which is a great honor, and I'm deeply grateful for that.
What is the award? It's like a Lifetime Achievement Award. I almost feel like a Hallmark movie is going to come out.
Well, I don't. It'll be a low budget movie if it comes out, but the award is given to folks that have had a significant impact on the intermodal business and a significant favorable impact. So it was a great surprise and a great honor for me to be given this award.
Awesome, awesome. Well, for those who don't know who you are, tell everybody who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your company.
Well, my name is Larry Gross. I'm the intermodalist is my handle, and I am an analyst that follows the North American intermodal space. So I put out a monthly analytical report, a deep dive report on the North American intermodal sector. It's subscribed to by a lot of the large industry players, and my job is to provide a 40,000-foot view of what's happening in this ever-changing and very complicated business.
Well, share that with us. Give us all the tea, Larry. I want to know what is happening in the industry right now, and what do we sort of see for the future?
Well, right now, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. We are having a very, very strong year. Well, when we talk about intermodal, we really have to understand that it's not one market, it's at least two different markets. And for the shorthand, I'll call them an international market and a domestic market. And the way that we define that is not whether it's crossing a border, but rather the type of equipment that's moving. So an international move would be a move of an ISO 20-foot or 40-foot international container off of a ship onto a double-stack train for movement inland. We'll call that the international piece. And the domestic piece is a 53-foot domestic container, or what's left of the trailer on flat car business. So you might have a domestic move that goes to Mexico, for instance, or it goes to Canada. So just to sort of clarify that, and the reason that we split it that way is because those two markets operate according to really different sort of influences. And right now, we're seeing very strong situation on the international side. Imports are running way ahead, 16% ahead of last year.
What? Wow.
In terms of movements on the rail. And so that is a really strong sector. The domestic side is only up a little between 2 and 3% per year. So these are working in very different ways, and that kind of disconnect is really unusual and probably not sustainable.
Okay.
So either freight's going to come up or imports, and that business is going to come down, and my vote would be the latter. And the reason why I think we're seeing so much strength on the international side is a lot of freight is moving earlier than normal, and it's moving earlier for a couple of reasons. It's moving earlier because of the congestion that we're seeing. We have the Red Sea problem with the Yemenite rebels firing missiles, and all the ships have got to go around Africa, so that's creating congestion and longer transit times and higher costs. So what we're seeing as a result of that, plus the potential for a port strike here in just now 3 weeks, it was considered highly unlikely, but now it seems much more likely. Well, folks have either got to get their freight in early to beat that, or they're going to have to go to the West Coast in order to avoid the congestion. And so you're going to get a lot of freight, and you are seeing a lot of freight trying to pile through on the West Coast. And then the third factor is the tariffs, or the potential for tariffs, more tariffs, depending on what happens in the presidential election. And for instance, we know there's a tremendous amount of solar components, solar electrical components moving early into warehouses. There's no demand for it right now, but they want to make sure the stuff's in the States in position before any changes in the tariffs. So there's a lot of reasons why we're seeing the stuff moving earlier than normal. And then, of course, we have a movement from the East Coast to the West Coast in terms of where this stuff is landing, where the international cargo is landing, and that's an intermodal tailwind, because intermodal has a much higher share coming off of the West Coast than when it does coming off of the East Coast, just because there are more miles involved. So that's tried to pile a lot of information in a concise answer.
Yeah. It's a lot of things for industry professionals to think about. And I'm sure it can probably get a little bit overwhelming. What would you say to those folks?
Well, I mean, all of this has been seen before. As a forecaster, I only give one guarantee, and that is that I'm going to be wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because
I'm surprised you give even one guarantee.
I'm giving a guarantee. And the reason is that there is so much of what's going on right now that is, I'll call it the black swan event. Black swan is a jargon phrase, but basically means high impact, low probability, and by definition probably unforecastable. So, for instance, when we had the attack by Hamas on Israel on October 7th last year, and there was a question that was asked, well, what's the chance that this is going to affect the Suez Canal? And at the time I said a 0% chance, because there's no way that Egypt will allow that to happen.
Right.
There's no way that this conflict is going to spread over there. The idea of somebody hundreds and hundreds of miles away deciding to fire missiles at container ships because theoretically of that conflict was not on my radar scope, and frankly I don't think it was on anybody's radar scope, but it's had a pretty profound effect on what's going on.
So get ready to be comfortable with being a little bit uncomfortable and not being able to plan for the future.
Well, I mean, you need to plan for resilience, and you need to have a diversified strategy so that when one of the nodes in your network or one of these events occur, that you're able to sort of pivot and not be stuck. And an example of that is folks that were single sourced on China and now are attempting as best as they can to reduce that dependence. That is not easy. It doesn't happen fast.
No, it doesn't.
So there's just an example of people trying to diversify their sources, diversify their routing, bring some of it back. There's a lot of moving parts to this thing.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts. And even when we talk about Mexico, which a lot of people have been talking about at Expo here at 2024, you still don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, right? We don't want to make the same mistakes twice.
That's right. And Mexico has a lot of things going for it. It also has some issues. I mean, it has proximity. It has a very well trained and large workforce, a lot of demographics, a lot of young people, so that we're all in favor. But you do have some issues with potentially government intervention. You have I'll say the overarching security issue. There's some problems with regard to cargo theft and bribery and other things that all can get eventually dealt with, and of course the migrant crisis and the migrant problem. So none of these options to China are clean. They all come with their own set of challenges.
And risks.
And we have to become comfortable with risk.
Well, and I think we also need to have conversations, right? Data is going to be king. Knowledge is power. You don't know what you don't know. And so we really need to make sure that we do the due diligence, we do the research as we move into 2025, where you can't forecast and plan what's going to happen. You can do your best to be the best prepared.
Yeah, I think that that's where folks like myself may have a role, because we are awash with data. Data is everywhere, flooding the airwaves, and the issue is to try and make sense of it. Now, there are folks that say maybe AI is the way to do that. I'm not in that camp. AI is a tool, but I wouldn't rely on it as the sole source for helping me understand what's happening here.
So follow Larry.
Well, I mean, 44 years of experience. This isn't my first rodeo, I guess I would say to that. But I mean, there's other folks, like the folks on the panel this morning, people like Lars Jensen, who are experts in their area of the field, and and I think there's some value to having a wide net of folks like that can offer their opinions.
Yeah, you do need a wide, diverse.
Don't rely on me or anybody else individually. We all have our opinions, and you sort of gather that up and collectively.
So let's talk about your 44-year career. We already talked about the fact that you won the Silver Kingpin Award.
Right.
And so give us a few of your career highlights. I mean, we already know that this award means so much to you.
It does, yes.
So talk to us about some of those highlights.
Well, my career really had two pieces to it. For the first half of my career, I was involved with a technology, a transportation technology, a competitive technology to the double stack container called road railer. And what a road railer was a truck trailer that had detachable rail wheels, and you could go directly on the rail in trains of 125 or 150 coupled all together. And it was a very efficient and very elegant system. And we sold a lot of those trailers over the course. I joined there after business school and was involved in that effort for well over 20 years. We sold about $500 million worth of that equipment.
$500 million,
yes,
Larry.
I mean, we did 10,000 trailers. So it was a very significant effort. In the end, the industry decided to go a different way. The industry decided to go 100% on domestic container. So the last road railer train actually only ran two weeks ago.
Okay.
So
wow.
As I put it this morning, there's a similarity between my career and the road railer. In both cases, we were still operating, but our maintenance costs were getting too high.
Got it.
So in my personal case, that's the situation as well.
That's amazing. Well, you've had such a distinguished career, and you bring so much information and knowledge to everybody in the industry. What do you think your guidance or advice would be for the future generation of intermodalists?
Well, I mean, one of the favorite things that I do here at the Expo is I am the MC and I write the case study for the Expo Academic Challenge. So yesterday we had 10 teams from 10 different colleges, 3 students each, that were given the case. They were given the case on Saturday. They had 6 hours to analyze it. This particular case dealt with drayage and owner-operator versus company-owned drivers. So it is quite a specialized case, and they had to digest the case, to perform their analysis, and put together a 10-minute presentation, which they then presented to a distinguished panel of industry judges that IANA put together yesterday morning, and the winner was announced this morning, University of Tennessee, as I recall. So it is just terrific to see these kids, undergrads that are so interested in this business, and I'm encouraging them to continue their interest and to actually go to work in this business, because it's a very interesting business. It's always changing. It's complicated, challenging, and until we invent teleporters, there's not going to be any substitute for transportation.
It's coming sooner than you think. I'm listening to this book right now on Audible, and they're talking about flying cars coming very, very, very quickly.
Well, I'll tell you just a quick story if we have the time. My wife's mom, who just recently passed away at the age of 96.
I'm sorry.
And so, she lived a very great life. And just a year or so before she passed away, my wife was talking to her and saying, "Mom, do you have any regrets, or things that you felt unfinished?" And she looked at my wife and said, "Well, you know what? I always thought I was going to have a jetpack."
Yes, because the Jetsons. It set us all up for wanting all these things so much sooner than 2024.
And I thought I was going to have a flying car. I don't have a flying car.
It's so true. Well, I appreciate your time, and we appreciate all your efforts in the industry.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
I think the future is bright. I think we can both say that.
Right.
I think we've got the next generation coming in, and I'm excited.
And as am I, I can't wait to see what happens.
Well, Larry, thank you so much for joining me here at IANA TV.
Thank you.